We are in a mini series studying about the temptation of Eve, and we are studying the tactics of the devil, what he used, what are the tactics, what are the strategies that he used to allure Eve to fall into temptation, to fall into sin. And we are studying this so that we can study the tactics of the devil, tactics, what he uses to tempt Eve, what he used to tempt Eve, and he is using still today to tempt us. You see, when we talk about sports and when we talk about a team having a match, a team fighting against an opponent or playing against an opponent, what do? They study their opponents. They study their strategies. They watch videos and they see what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and when they get into the match, then they know exactly what the opponent is about, what are the strategies that they have. And brothers and sisters, you and me, we are also in a match, we are in a war, we are in a fight against the devil. The war is between God and Satan, and we are engulfed in that war, and we have to know the strategies and the tactics of the devil. And we want to see that from the first words that are coming out of the mouth of the devil. And we are in the book of Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1, and it says, "Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made, and he said to the woman, has God indeed said?" And the first words coming out of the mouth of the devil are the words of God himself. He is talking about God, and we see that for the devil, his mind is preoccupied with God, and that's why the first words coming out of his mouth are about God, but not in a good sense. He's preoccupied and he's engulfed in his mind about God, because for him, God is his enemy and God is his opponent, and he is going to use negative words for God, and he's going to use he is going to degrade God, and we are going to see how he is going to do that. The first words that are coming out of the mouth of the devil are, has God indeed said? And the word that he is using here for God is Elohim. Has God said? But originally, when God had said that, we see that in the in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 16, it says, "And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, you shall of every tree of the garden you may freely eat." And if you will see the chapter 2 and before that, in even chapter 3 verse 1, it said that, "And the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made." And in chapter 2 and verse 15, we see, "And the Lord God took the man." And then if we go before that, verse 8, it says, "And the Lord God planted a garden." And then we continue and we see that everywhere in chapter 2, and the Lord God and the Lord God and the Lord God. And what is this original word, the Lord God? The original word, the Lord God, is Yahweh or Jehovah. And the word that the devil is using is the word Elohim. The word Elohim is a generic word for God, and the word Jehovah is the specific name of God which represents the sovereignty of God. And the devil refuses to use the sovereign name, the word which represents the sovereignty of God, and he is using a generic name of God, Elohim. And sometimes Elohim is used for God, but the real name of God is Jehovah or Yahweh. And the devil has this resentment against God, and he cannot use the term of God. He cannot say the name of God in praise and in worship and in adoration and in love and in exaltation and looking up. He has to use a degrading name in his mind, and he has to use a word which is lower than his original position, and that the honor and the glory that should be given to God, the devil is avoiding that word and using a different lower name of God. And brothers and sisters, we have to see how we are using the name of God. Are we using the name of God to honor him, to exalt him, or are we using his name in vain by using terms and saying things about God which are not true of God. And when we get into conversations about God, are we talking to people who have this lower image of God in their minds? And when we see, we have to notice these subtle things. Otherwise, we are going to be led astray like Eve. We are going to be led astray into temptation. We have to notice these things. If we are getting into a conversation and we are talking to people who have a lower image of God, who have this lower view of God, and if we are talking to those people, I'm not saying avoid the conversation completely, but just be vigilant. Let not, we are going to see in our next video that his view of God, his negative view of God, the negative view of the Satan of God is being passed on to Eve, and she embraces it. She embraces this lower view of God from the devil. She embraces it. And we see that when we have to be very vigilant when we get into conversations about God with people. We have to be vigilant not to embrace their lower ideas of God into our psyche, into our mind. But we have to be very vigilant, to be very careful when we get into conversations with God, not to take on the lower idea of other people about God, but we have to try to share our idea, our vision of God, our higher vision of God with other people. But if we are not able to do that, because not everybody is in that place, is in that spiritual state where that person will be able to take that higher vision of God, then at least we should not embrace their lower vision of God into our lives, and we have to guard ourselves against that. We have to see that, and we have to know that, and we are going to see that this woman is going to take this lower vision. So this word that is used here, God, Elohim, she is also going to call. She is also, when she talks back and when she replies, she has to avoid that conversation which she does not, because she is not vigilant enough. And when she replies, she also uses the same very word, Elohim, because she has taken on. You see, when the devil is speaking, what the words that are coming out of the mouth of the devil are words which are spellbinding, which have a magical effect on the person. It has a magical effect on her, and the words of the devil can have magical effects on our life as well. And we have to be very careful, and we have to be very vigilant. What are the wordings, what are the concepts, what are the ideas that we are allowing from other people? Because Satan, we have seen in our previous video that Satan is going to use other people to impact us, and what are the other people's ideas, thinking about God, and we are not going to allow it to pollute our vision, our view of God. We serve an amazing God. We serve a beautiful God. We serve a loving God. We serve an honorable God. And let nothing change our view of God. I hope these video series are bringing a blessing to your life. And if they are, do please bless me by liking this video and also by sharing it and subscribing to our YouTube channel. God bless you, and I will see you in the next video.